So, hello everyone. I am back finally after almost 2 weeks being on the road and not having time for doing my hobby. Um, this morning I'm going to show you sort of my first impressions, first look at a new tool on the blog, which is called Rex Skyforce 3D. I found it relatively interesting the way they had described it. My experience with active sky cloud arts wasn't very good, to tell you the truth. It gave me a bit of trouble with a number of things. I mean, I got it to work then eventually, but I wasn't that impressed with the looks and so on. But that is a matter of personal taste. It doesn't mean it is bad, it's just that it didn't somehow cut it for me. I wasn't really happy, especially with the cloud art thing, which overrode my sky colors and generally gave the sim a very dull look. I don't know. So I couldn't really get it to work for me. What I do like about Active Sky is the weather engine, because I think that it is probably the best weather engine that we get for the FSX prepared world. But again, that is my personal opinion based on my observations so far. Now, Rex Skyforce promises to do it all. Like they do the textures, they also do weather. And yeah, they've completely redone the way that you work with this tool, with Rex in general. So there's this new Rex Skyforce 3D center here, and there's all kinds of things that you can put in. And it is possible to not only change your textures and your sky colors and what have you, but it also is able to ingest weather. So there's a new weather engine. And the thing that I kind of liked the most when I saw the previews is that I thought that the clouds, the way they presented the clouds, especially when it comes to thunderstorms and any kind of a real weather situation, to me looked superior to what Active Sky gave me. And not only that, according to all the descriptions, it's supposed to perform better, which on my old rig is always a factor. Therefore, I made use of a really good reduction. It's basically a 50% or something like that. You get it relatively cheap compared to the full price. As having some Rex tools already, and I have Rex Soft Sky and Rex, what was the other thing called? The previous product basically, and so I made use of the reduction that you get. That was a couple of weeks ago, just in January, beginning of January. It was still in my vacation. I intended to have Rex installed here and give it a go and make a video. Thing is, I wasn't really able to do that. Why? Because there were some issues. When Rex Skyforce came out, they had to, as usual, tackle a few initial problems. But most people got it to work, but there were some people, I wasn't certainly the only one, where the activation didn't work. So not only could I not activate the software after I have successfully installed it and provided all serial numbers and stuff like that. So to me it was done basically. I installed, I gave a serial number, it kind of accepted it, it put it on the disk, and when I started the first time it connected to the whatever servers it needs, and it wanted to activate. And that's when things went horribly wrong, because basically I wasn't able to continue from the position where I was asked for the simulator path. And not only that, when I just couldn't continue, so it wouldn't do anything, it wouldn't start. I had the beginning of this program, and I couldn't get past it. And when I actually cancelled and tried again, because that's what you usually do, you give it a go, you try different things, you run it as an administrator, or you make sure that it is administrator and all that kind of stuff. So I tried all kinds of things, and in the end I actually blew my activation count, or my installation count as I actually call it, because when you do this serial number entry, it counts as an installation. And when you do this, I don't know, 5 or 10 times, I have no idea. I did it a couple of times, obviously. You're suddenly out. Then that means I couldn't do nothing anymore. I couldn't even start. So obviously I wasn't very happy at the beginning. So I went onto the forum because I wasn't sure how to contact. I looked around to see if someone else had this problem. I put in an article on the forum describing my problem. They actually got back to me, told me that I should send an email to the Rex support email address. In hindsight, I now remember that I have seen the email address on one of the pop-ups, but the thing is, when I actually came to the installation count or exceeded thing, I think that didn't come anymore, so I wasn't sure where to send my email to. But it worked out quite well, and I have to say, apart from the fact that I wasn't really very happy about this initial problem preventing me from actually using the software, these guys came back to me very quickly. They were obviously very, very, very busy. Because yeah, it wasn't the only problem. Obviously, it's always like that when you issue a new software, there is going to be some hiccups at the beginning. It's very likely. There is no perfect software. So coming from the software industry, I know all about that. So I wasn't really angry or anything. They responded very quickly, which is to me is already the good thing. You know, I know they're not just letting me hang there and I have to wait for ages. Now I had to wait a couple of days before the problem was actually resolved. A patch was issued that would fix it. Obviously, I prefer them to do it properly and give me the patch even if I couldn't use it then during my vacation. But it came, it worked, I installed it and gave it a quick test, and everything is okay. So although that wasn't nice, it's something that shouldn't really have happened, but it happened and they fixed it, and now we can look at the software. Okay, so what's different with Rex Skyforce? And by the way, this is just an initial view. This is not a tutorial. I have to obviously keep telling people that I'm not doing tutorials. This is just a look. This is actually basically almost my first look, because when I tested it quickly 2 weeks ago, I just made sure that I can run through all the menus, but I didn't have time to really explore it. And today we're basically continuing my exploration. So this is not a tutorial. I'm not going to know everything there is to know about Rex Skyforce. If you're looking for someone to tell you exactly how things work, well, there are other sources, I'm pretty sure, because Rex Skyforce is out now for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month. I'm actually not sure when they issued it. Beginning of January, I think. So 2 or 3 weeks, it should be out already. I'm pretty sure someone out there has made a tutorial. Okay, so this is not a tutorial. I'm just going to show you around as far as I understand it so far. Now, how does it work, or how does it seem to work? Basically, when you start it, you end up here in this dashboard, as they call that. And the dashboard gives you access. It's a bit fancy, to tell you the truth, but it's okay. Yeah, so it's the same things here. Okay, so these menus and this here, this is sort of double mobile. Yeah, you can do it from both ends. So if you're on the dashboard, you can click on weather, flights, center, and so on. The other thing they do, and it took me a moment to kind of grasp what this is for, you can basically define a set of favorite airports or preferred airports or whatever you want to call it. And the idea is that they present you with this list. Now, I haven't really, this list is almost the original. I haven't really changed this list. So as you can see, there's a lot of US airports. I'm not sure if they link it with where you are. We are actually at KVPS Air Force Base. That's the standard airport and the standard plane that comes with prepared when you started and haven't done anything. Because we're looking at weather, not at aircraft or airports. Now, KVPS is my last. I just added it before I started the video, and we can see that it is partly cloudy and 7 degrees Celsius. Now, this is clear sky because I have not activated the weather engine yet, or there are reasons why I have changed the weather scheme, but I will show you how that works with the weather ingestion in a moment. So you can have your favorite airports here. Probably set up your airports as you go. Like if you go from Munich to Nuremberg, you would probably put in EDDM and EDDN here. It will replace, I think there's a fixed number of slots, it will replace them, and that's fine. Now, there's another thing that you can get from the dashboard, and that's called the latest shared environment themes. So there seem to be up to, I don't know, 10 or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 or 12. I can't. It's probably 10, yeah. There's about 10 so-called themes, and they seem to be the last uploaded ones. Basically, Rex Skyforce allows you to do all this setting stuff that we are quickly browsing through now in this video, and just give it a name and put it on the internet, or basically on a Rex server. And then you can kind of search for themes, look at them like in a preview, and if you like them, you can actually use them instead of having to go through the hoops of doing it yourself. Up to you. Nice idea. We have this kind of idea now from things like Chase Plane. They do that with the positions, for the aircraft, the view positions and stuff. So here's basically themes. It's not something completely new. Other programs do that too. That's just a community repository, basically, of texture and setting schemes for Rex Skyforce 3D. Okay, now let's go through these menus here, or maybe if we start with the settings. So if you go to the settings menu, there's quite a few ones. Okay, general settings, weather settings, texture settings, and when we look at this here, here's the weather injection settings, and here comes the bit. I have it turned on at the moment. Okay, let's turn that off for the moment. Enable Rex Skyforce weather engine. You actually use the inbuilt engine. If you do not have any other weather injection program, with buying Rex Skyforce, you have actually bought yourself a weather engine, and it is probably a good one. I haven't really been able to test it. I can't tell you if it is accurate. I just haven't had enough experience with the program. It creates weather. It's based on the weather information available. I'm not sure if they do some magic trying to make the weather look better. According to the description, they do. So that means they will try and set up your clouds and stuff like that, kind of trying to get the best result out of it. And if I understand it correctly, if you use the internal Rex Skyforce weather engine, probably or likely that your results when it comes to the visuals of the weather and the clouds and stuff are potentially better than if you use an external weather engine tool. Now, if you have turned this off, like I have now, you can actually start Active Sky for P3D or FS Global Real Weather, or any of the other FS Real WX, or any kind of freeware tool that ingests weather, or for example use the weather of an IVAP client or something like that. And that is one of the reasons why you may want to turn the Rex Skyforce weather engine off, in order to prevent that weather gets overwritten, because these guys are not using the VATSIM or IVEO service for pulling the weather information. They get it from some other place, probably more realistic place, but that's beside the point, because if you're flying on VATSIM, you want the VATSIM weather in order to be sure that you have the same weather that the controller uses. And you can do this by turning this off, and what it will do is then it will do its best job to try and represent the current weather in your simulator. Okay, so let's turn that on again. There are some other things, for example, this is not active yet. I think that's something that's going to come. You can have enable shared cockpit weather injection. That somehow seems to work if you're flying in a shared cockpit and the other guy also has Rex Skyforce. It can kind of communicate the weather. So I guess one of them is the server, the other one is kind of the client, and I'm guessing it makes sure that you both see the same weather and potentially also the same representation of the weather. Yeah, there are some things like in-sim weather briefings, audible weather briefings. I haven't really ventured into these yet, but they're there. You can auto-load the flight plan. You can enable convert Fahrenheit to and inches of mercury, enable in-sim green bar alert, enable minimum altitude injection limit. So there are some features. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's no point. We would be sitting here for 2 hours probably. So as you can see, there is quite a few things. Some of them have turned off, some of them have turned on. The in-sim green bar alert is basically giving me information about the injection. If you don't want that, and for example, if I do videos, I usually don't want that to pop up, then you can turn this off. All right. And you can give a limit, for example, where you don't want new weather to be injected in order to prevent some nasty things. Now, on profile, I will not go. This is just about your registration details, and obviously I don't want you to see them. Here you can see where we are. We are currently at version 5.0.2018, 0104, which is probably the 4th of January or something like that. And you can have a manual software update. You can download. That's what I had to do when I fixed my original Rex. I needed to do a manual update, but it does an automatic. So there is a new patch destined to come soon. They just sent me an email today. They describe roughly what the new patch contains and what fixes and so on. So eventually I will probably start the program and then have to wait for an update to be put in. Airports, this is the list of 10 favorite airports. Again, here you can delete them, you can add your own and set up. I think there's a limit. I think it's about 10 or so. I think. I'm not sure. Then the weather engine. We have been there. Cloud Sync. Enable real-time 3D cloud model structures, sync mode and texture sync. So it seems possible, like with the what was it called, Active Sky Cloud Art thingy, that it can change certain textures and the setup of clouds and ingest that while you are flying the simulator. I am not sure when it does it, because when I tried kind of sitting here at the airport and see if there are changes to the clouds, it didn't really change anything. So this might be working when you're actually flying and when things are changing, like the weather is changing, they might actually update textures without you realizing. So you can turn this on, and it will do its best to have a good representation of the weather. So that's basically what this is for, as far as I understand it. You can do some rain shaft renderings, supercell thunderstorm renderings. Now that is something that I'm really looking forward, proper representation of thunderstorms, because so far I haven't really seen for me a reasonable looking thunderstorm scenario with cumulonimbus and so on. What I've seen even in active sky, maybe I've did something wrong, but it just didn't cut it for me. It just doesn't look like I know that thunderstorms look like from below and from above. Yeah, as I say, I might have been doing something wrong, but I was never really convinced so far. Clouds. You can put some turbulence rendering, maximum thunderstorm rendering, so they seem to be all on severe. In other words, it gets really choppy when you are inside a weather system. And there's some global cloud settings, cumulonimbus, and so on. So I'm up to you to go through these. They probably also have a performance impact. So depending on what you set and how much it needs to do for rendering and stuff, you might actually see a little bit of an impact. So far, at least as far as I can tell, the impact on the frames in P3D version 4 has been not really noticeable. I haven't really noticed a huge drop. Even when there is rain and stuff. I still have to test this a bit more because I haven't really had the chance to do a lot, but at the moment it looks like it's performing quite well, and that would be a real bonus if that works out. Because usually when I have thunderstorms and rain, I get Ruckelkino, slideshow kind of thing with low frames. Well, let's see. I haven't really been able to test it in earnest yet. And then there's the texture settings. So there are some things like sky textures. Now I have actually another option here, which I'm going to show you in a moment, but for the sky textures and stuff. But the rest, like lightning texture, special effects, 3D clouds, so they're all turned on to replace. And yeah, you can set this. Then there is the resolution. Now, although I'm now in a 64-bit simulator, I'm obviously very aware of the limitations. I have 8 GB of RAM. I have a GTX 670 with 2 GB, which is not a lot. The processor is 64-bit, and I have 8 processors, of which I don't use all of them. I use only 6 for the simulator and leave the other 2 cores available. And I have, as you can see, I have optimized. I've turned the optimization on. What it does, apparently, as far as I understand it, is it checks kind of where your performance lies, and it will change things, obviously, like scale down on the resolution if it realizes that your system is going to get into trouble. Sounds really good, and possibly also works, because as I said, so far I haven't really seen a drastic drop in frames as I'm usually seeing when there is bad weather around. And the HDR. So I have enabled the DirectX 11 HDR. We are on prepared version 4 now, and there's no point turning that off, because that's one of the things that you want to have. 3D proper HDR rendering of things. Okay. So that's all the settings you can do. For the details, please refer to the manuals and look at the web pages and maybe some other videos that people are going very specific into certain aspects of it. There's not enough time for me to explain all of that. Now let's go through the settings again. So 3D cloud model. Yeah, you can set a lot of things, as you can see here. Yeah, alto stratus, overcast. So basically, here you can modify what your alto clouds are looking like, or which options by turning the one or the other thing. Don't ask me what flockus, perlucius, and undulatus are. I'm not a meteorologist. But there's quite a few things. You can't do anything on the stratus stuff. Then there's the cumulus. You can enhance overcast cloud bases. If you turn that on, it does probably something different in the way it represents overcast. And Don't ask me what roll clouds are. Again, I need to go through and find out what all of that is. It's the same here for the cumulonimbus, basically the thunderstorm cells, Calvus rain shaft. So that's probably the form and the way it looks, and you can even see tornadoes and funnels. Interesting. Yeah. The tops, by the way, 60 to 75,000. That means you will not be able to fly over a thunderstorm cloud, or you shouldn't be able to fly over a thunderstorm cloud, because they can tower up really, really high, higher than your airplane usually can fly. And it's not a good idea to fly into thunderstorms directly anyway. And then if you made changes or something, you can say install now, and it will install the current set. The other thing is that there is this real-time sync mode. It's on, so we have seen this in the settings. So it will actually make changes to the setup in the simulator depending on probably the weather and some other factors. Okay. Next is the whole thing of textures. So there are these themes, and if you have had any kind of Rex product before, like soft clouds and so on, that's basically you just go and you look at your different types of clouds, and you can choose the one you like, and you can add it to a theme, and you can load that theme, and then your clouds will be one of those here. Okay. There's also the Cirrus Clouds. Again, you can choose between sets of different types of Cirrus Clouds, and it will then probably randomize, or whatever way they put them in there. Okay, that's the sky colors. There are a number of themes. There's a 10-day cycle thingy. Don't ask me, but they change it slightly, like randomize it. I haven't really tried that yet, so I don't know if it really looks different. Sun and atmosphere, yeah, so different ways how to portray the sun. And when we look in the simulator, I have one of those, and it's really with effects here and the blinding a little bit and stuff. So I quite like that. So what you can see here, by the way, is the current theme of sky colors that I have. Yeah, which is nice. Now let me be clear. Prepared version 4 default is not bad. Okay. So to tell you the truth, I wouldn't really need Rex if it's just about a little bit of morning glory and sky colors. That would be completely useless, because I think that prepared version 4 comes with a nice set of colorings. I had no problems after the installation looking at the morning and the evening. So this is not really what I want Rex Skyforce for. What I want it for is what we're going to see in a moment, and that is the clouds and the way the clouds are represented. Yeah, that's the moon phases also, so you can see different types of moons, more or less colored. Then lightning effects. Okay, don't ask me. I mean, to me, they're lightnings. I wouldn't be able to distinguish the themes anyway, tell you the truth. And then there's a bit of sound stuff that you could change. I haven't installed it yet, because to me, sound is not that important when it comes to that kind of weather and so on. I concentrate on the flying and on other aspects. But as you can see, there are sound sets here, and we need to go through them. Not now. I don't want this video to be too long. And you can actually have a look at what is currently active here, and here you see all the the sets that belong to this active theme, basically. Okay, that is currently out there in the simulator. So that's what you can see here. Next, the idea that they have is that you basically import a flight plan. You can import flight plans from Prepared, obviously, or FSX for that matter. And what it does is it will take that flight plan of yours, and it will put it up here in this map. And you can actually look at the details. So we're flying here in Alaska. There's also the route displayed. You can look at a bit more detail here in the flight plan menu. So you see all the waypoints. You see the winds at different levels, and as we can see, the weather is not too bad. Arrival, we might be no 4 degrees. There doesn't seem to be any rain, so it is cold. Is it? Yeah, 4 degrees, and obviously it's winter. Although I would think that having 3 degrees in Alaska in January kind of sounds. Or am I looking at the wrong value here? No, this looks like we have a pretty warm weather. Surprisingly warm weather for this kind of area at this time of the year. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. And I still haven't figured out why the zoom isn't working. I think you need to do it here. I would kind of wish that I can use my mouse, but for some reason right click on the image to move the map to a new location. Yeah, okay, but yeah, you need to kind of zoom down here, and you can follow your aircraft if we are connected. So at the moment it just shows you, and it would show you the weather conditions in the area. So let's see, winds, temps, PIREPs, SIGMATs. So there are a number of things that you can get yourself displayed. So this, for example, is now some weather here, the METAR, the wind. If there are significant meteorological conditions, they will show them. Active IFR airmets, okay. Temperatures at let's say 3,000 feet, and it takes some time. So 3 and 4 degrees, you can see these numbers here. It can take quite a bit of time before it would actually show you the change. Okay, here you see the wind now, so that gives you kind of these wind arrows. And okay, I can't use maybe with right click on the map to move. Even that it takes an awful long time. So this isn't really very responsive, let's say. So I'm not overly happy with the performance of this map. It's good that this is not my mapping tool, but yeah, so you can use it. And if I activate now the aircraft follow mode, in a moment we should be seeing ourselves in no, we are not, are we? This is not my aircraft. We are not in Alaska. We are somewhere completely different. You can see how long that takes. So that is a little bit slow. So the map isn't exactly great. Okay, so that's this flight plan thing, and the idea is that you load a flight plan, and if you have the built-in weather engine, it will actually try and replicate the weather as good as it can with all these features and mechanisms. Or you can, by the way, pull flight plans from the community again, because people have created them and uploaded them somehow. You can select one of those if it fits what you need. Yeah, you could look for if there are any flight plans including your airport. Yeah, they're not. Well, there isn't very much at the moment. So that's the flight plan thing. Then comes the weather page. There you get all the information from your favorite airport, from the current airport. So we are at 2 degrees at the moment, and dew point is -3. Definitely weather where you would look at some de-icing or anti-icing. And there is also a way to search for weather. Okay, so you can either go and enter the KO for an airport and say search, and then it would give you the airport here in Munich. Or you could actually look for types of weather. So for example, let's see where there are thunderstorms. And yeah, so in Norway, storm in vicinity here, and in Mexico, and on the Dominican Republic, and somewhere in Asia. So there are weather conditions that you can check. Not that you can display them somehow. Well, anyway. So, oh, now it has. Was it double click or when did it change it? Now it did. It just takes some time. So this update thing, also for the map and so on, seems to be pretty slow of what I can see. So it takes time. Don't get restless. So now here's the map. The map is, well, I wouldn't really use it as a moving map tool because it's not really, it isn't really very good, and it takes an awful long time to get your stuff displayed. So, well, yeah, here you can see. So for example, let's change the winds to 39,000, and then you can see roughly what the winds are like on the flight level that you intend to fly. So these are the themes. Now you can create your own themes, or you can use one of those on the internet. There are 25 banks, as they call them. So I'm guessing that 25 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so themes you can choose from at the moment. I'm guessing that that's what it means. So you can move forward. There are probably more intuitive ways to get this done. But, well, anyway. Or you can look at your own saved themes. So I have default and live cockpits, and I can't remember doing that myself. So live cockpits, oh yeah, that is I actually downloaded a theme from the internet. So this is the default theme that I'm running at the moment, and I can always install that, or I can make changes to all these settings and then save my thing as a theme, and then I can recall them, so I can have different themes that I can switch in between. Okay, so here you can also see fair weather, foggy, snowy weather. So if you can randomize it. So now it has done a randomized theme, and if I install that, then the next time it would actually apply. Now there's this option here I wanted to show you. That's the prepared tweak assistant. I remember that I've seen last year, was it mid last year, so I've seen that Matt Davis Bellins was talking about this tweak assistant. They obviously got together with the original developers and kind of, I don't know if they took over or what they did, but for some reason Matt Davis is now associated with the tweak assistant, which used to be, I think, a freeware. And is a tool that allows you to do some optimizations from a rendering point of view, to get a better visual sort of representation in prepared version 3 originally. And I got a little bit mixed up due to not exactly 100% clear communication, and I thought, okay, so they took the freeware, they improved it, and they made it a payware. It wasn't that expensive, so I got on SimMarket PTA. I wanted to install it on version 3, and I realized, no, this is for version 4 only. Bummer. Okay. So as I knew that I would be doing version 4 anyway in the future, I didn't just give it back. It wasn't made that clear. So obviously, when I saw someone like me, who is usually not that stupid, overlooks something like that, it must have been badly represented. So it wasn't that 100% clear that it is for version 4 only. Anyway, now that I have version 4, I installed it and I did some experimentation with PTA. There might be a video about that at some other point. I still trying to find out. I haven't had that much time yet, simply as that. I haven't really figured out what does it really make better in a comparable way, so that I know, okay, yeah, actually this is looking much better than the default and things. So that's going to come. You can integrate when it comes to sky colors and that kind of stuff. There are certain themes again that you can look at. So you see here the sky colors and the sunrise. And what it does basically is it writes a profile for PTA into the PTA folder. And the next time you start your simulator, and when PTA is actually configured to use this profile, it will automatically set all the shaders and stuff. You have to do this actually in the PTA tool. And that means that from a sky color point of view and from the kind of vibrance and colors and things, you use the PTA settings for the rendering. All the rest, the clouds and stuff, comes from the Rex module. And that's basically it. And now let's have a look at some of the weather things. And you can do this pretty simple. There's no big deal here. You can use any of the weather themes because Rex has already ingested all the settings, the clouds, the textures and stuff. So what you can do now is you can pick a weather theme and then we can look at what that looks like. Okay. So it takes a wee moment for the weather to load, and this is now what I kind of like, and we can see some impact here on the frames at the moment. I wonder if it is still loading, because we have now partially pretty severe. Now it's back. Okay, so it took some time for this to load, and what I like is, although I find it quite fuzzy, but that is actually something that comes from the settings. So if I go to user defined now and I give it unlimited visibility, we can see a little bit better. Okay, still it still looks a little bit fuzzy. Now these could be PTA settings, and I might have to turn PTA off to do some more testing. And we are in the morning, which means that the light isn't yet so bright. So what I can do is I can go into the 12 o'clock, and here's what you see now. Now it's much better, actually. Now you can see much better. Yeah, you can see these towering sort of building rain clouds here, which I quite like. Yep, that's looking quite good. And if we go to another weather theme, which is, for example, I don't know, fogged in, let's have a look at that. Okay, I mean, fog worked also without Rex, and there is not much you can see anyway. Therefore, let's try another one, which is gray and rainy. And yeah, so we can see that we have actually clouds above us, because that is something that also in X-Plane sometimes is really strange, because basically you have these clouds dotted around with holes in between, and you're standing actually in a hole of clouds and the rain is coming from above, which is just not realistic. You have to have a cloud above you in order to have rain, at least as far as I understand this whole weather thing. And yeah, in this case we do actually seem to have a cloud right above us. Okay, and I could imagine that if the cloud moves on due to strong winds, the rain would actually stop. At least that's what I'm hoping. I haven't really been able to try that yet. Let's try another one. Major thunderstorm. Okay, so it's raining and we're getting, yeah, so there is these really high looming towering clouds, and that I like. Okay, because that is exactly what it looks like, and it may be that active sky does this too. Okay, I don't want to say that active sky can't do that. It's just that somehow it didn't look like that when I had it, for whatever reasons. Okay. Yeah, we have a little bit of an impact at the moment on the frames, it seems, but that's always for a short moment, and then it seems to recover again. Not sure if that has to do with us injecting weather or something. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that gives you a little bit of an idea. See what other weather scheme we have. We have the stormy weather. Can try that too. So there's kind of basically a cloud coverage here. Now that is something that doesn't work. I'm not sure if that's PTA, because you can't really see this sun effect when there is clouds. You wouldn't actually see. So that's something that I still need to figure out, because this isn't realistic. But I'm not sure which of the tools is actually doing it, or if Prepared just can't get this right. I don't know. I might actually turn this effect off anyway. Okay, so yeah, it's a reasonable representation of that. Now what I need to do is I need to do some flights. I need to do some flights in different weather, and then we can see how that looks when you fly through the clouds. But since we are already on 46 minutes, I think it's enough for this initial video, just to give you an idea of how it works. And so far I'm happy enough with it, but my final sort of judgment on whether this was worth it it still needs to be done. So I still need to kind of learn more about it, start using it, and see if there is a feelable difference between let's say the old Active Sky solution, or the Active Sky for P3D version 4, and the Rex, and what it is. Okay, as I say, the Active Sky Cloud Arts thing, or Cloud Studio, or whatever it was called, that didn't do it for me. I just didn't like the way things were presented in the simulator, and therefore at the moment I'm happy enough with it, although I'm pretty sure there can be more. For example, also still the coloring and stuff. So I'm still tweaking a little bit to get a better view, because don't forget, if I want to make videos like in X-Plane, we have this brilliant, vibrant kind of almost photo-like image. This again, Prepared is on the outset is pretty dull, and I'm looking at improving this by tweaking on the rendering settings and stuff. So that's still something that is outstanding. I haven't had time to really fly with Prepared or do any kind of tweaking yet. But yeah, there's a whole year ahead of me, and I'm pretty sure by the end of this year I'm going to have version 4 configured to where I want it to be, you know. Anyway, I hope that was somewhat helpful to you, at least for getting a first impression. And yeah, until next time.